Hello, and welcome to our Ecosocialist Solstice celebration. I'm Ted Franklin, one of the coordinators of System Change, Not Climate Change. Today, we're scattered across North America and beyond. I'm coming to you from unceded Ohlone land, now called Oakland, California. What is the solstice? Well, it's the official beginning of winter, the shortest day of the year. But it's also the time when we reflect on the year past and on our hopes for the future. It's been quite a year. Global pandemic, climate emergency, worsening inequality, poverty, hunger, racist police violence, war without end, and ominous threats to basic freedoms. But spirit of resistance is powerful and growing. Popular movements have been rising to confront these interlocking evils. Together, we have defeated one evil, narcissistic, sadistic, authoritarian capitalist in the United States. But there is so much more work to be done. For over 7 years, members of System Change, Not Climate Change, have been working as organizers, artists, writers, educators, laborers, and troublemakers, united in our belief that the capitalist system is driving us over a cliff. Nothing short of system change, a revolution in the organization of human society, will save the world from a vastly poorer future. No revolution is going to happen without artists, musicians, players, and poets lighting our path. Their art sharpens our understanding. It enables us to see invisible possibilities and shows us how to share our message of peace, justice, and equality. On top of all that, we need some fun, and we're going to have some in a few minutes. System Change, Not Climate Change co-hosted the first large eco-socialist conference in New York City in 2014. Since then, we've built and maintained an active online presence. You can learn more about our website, Facebook, and YouTube pages and sign up for our listserv and occasional newsletters. This year, we launched a series of webinars that now reside on our YouTube channel, and we'll be continuing those in 2021. We'll post information on how to connect with us in the Zoom chat and in the Facebook comments. And now I'm going to hand the mic over to our MC and the producer of this event, Maura Stevens.
Thank you, Ted. Ted is the energy and brains behind SCNCC and our fabulous communications network. And I want to thank today our dear friend and hard worker, Steve Willett, who's been the man behind the scenes, learning new technology, learning to fly, as we all have been in this COVID time. Greetings, gentle earthlings. I am Maura Stevens, speaking to you from the ancestral lands of the Huetare people of Costa Rica. If you're an artist yourself, or if someone you love is an artist, you probably know that artists are compelled to do their art, whatever form it may take, including some of the less celebrated, like fabric arts and gardening arts and culinary arts. I happen to be married to a gifted playwright and theater artist who is totally miserable being stuck home all day with me. But he's made the best of the isolation time to teach himself how to play piano, how to weld, and how to do woodworking, among other creative pursuits. George is an embodiment of seizing the day, and to my great joy, he remains healthy. That's not so for others we love and cherish. And we'd like to dedicate this celebration of arts and artivism and activism to those who've been harmed by COVID and all the other plagues of humanity that we face over the past seasons, as well as those working to keep us all safe and healthy. We have an extraordinary collection of artists joining us today, including some who were unable to join us in person, but sent in offerings. We couldn't be more thrilled to share them with you. First, I'd like to introduce Kimberlyn David, a wise woman, a fine writer, and a former colleague of mine. Last week, she sent out an email to women with whom she's been convening conversations on time and leisure. And the email struck me as the perfect opening for today. I've asked her to share this brief essay on creativity, which she's called The Arts and You, to kick us off. Following Kimberlyn, we'll hear from Rafael Jesús González, who famously has said, "We are all artists, either consciously or unconsciously." Rafael is the poet laureate of Berkeley, California, USA, and he'll read his short blessing of a poem in English and Spanish, Bendición, which we think is a lovely way to continue this opening. We'll hear again later in the program from both Kimberlyn and Rafael. First, please welcome Kimberlyn David, coming to us live from the Netherlands.
Good evening, everybody. When the American comedian Dave Chappelle mentored students at the Duke Ellington School of the Arts in DC, he drummed a message about transformation. You are very necessary now. This is a season for artists, he told the students. You gotta reveal people to themselves by exposing yourself with your art. The emphasis on reveal and exposing is mine. I highlight these words because they're reflective of our conversations with one another as ecologically aware humans, whether we identify as artists or not. As people deeply committed to protecting every member of our species and all other species, we practice the art of revealing and exposing who we are, our hidden layers. We practice generosity of spirit by showing up for one another and listening with care. It's about being seen and heard, which is what today is all about. I also emphasize these words, revealing and exposing, because they're foundational to creative action. In other words, art or artivism. Art is a response to being human at a particular moment in time. Art is always, not always, a tangible, visible thing. Maybe it is a book or an album or a well-cooked meal. But it can also be an approach to healing ourselves or our relationships. It can be an unwavering awareness of impermanence. Whatever our particular art may be, revealing/exposing involves embodying our essential worthiness. So, system change, not climate change, is inviting us to say farewell to the trying year of 2020 by celebrating our artistry and our artists, including us here today. Let's give ourselves a friendly reminder that courageous art is risky, and let's commit to taking risks and exposing our own layers in service to greater understanding and cooperation among all who share this wondrous planet. And now I'm very happy to pass the mic to Rafael.
Good afternoon. Buenas tardes. Para el solsticio invernal de la tierra de los Olonis, a orillas de la bahía de San Francisco, deseándoles las bendiciones de la temporada, hoy y siempre. Que el nacer de la luz nos ilumine el corazón y nos traiga la justicia y la paz, salud y felicidad y una tierra sana y salva. En esta oscuridad, que la luz de nuestros corazones ilumine nuestras vidas y guíe nuestra revolución con amor feroz para que nuestra lucha para sanar la tierra por la justicia, la paz, la llevemos con alegría y belleza, nuestro proceso y meta. for the winter solstice from the land of the Ohlone on the shores of San Francisco Bay. Wishing you the season's blessing now and always. May the birth of the light illumine our hearts and bring us justice and peace, health and happiness, and an earth whole and safe. In this darkness, let the light in our hearts brighten our lives and guide our evolution with fierce love, so that we wage our struggle to heal the earth for justice, for peace, with joy and beauty, our process and our goal. Ometeo. With love to everyone who inhabits the earth and to the earth herself.
Thank you so much, Rafael. This is Maura. I've been knocked off the internet, as sometimes happens here in Costa Rica. But I'm back now and on my husband's computer. Our next artist is, to my mind, the most extraordinary painter in the world. His body of work is mind-blowing. And the fact that he is able to do it under such extraordinarily terrible circumstances that would make anybody feel crushed is even more, it makes his work even more extraordinary. I first met Muayad Muhsin in 2003 in the blazingly hot, horrible Iraqi summer in July and August of that year, the first year of the occupation, the most recent occupation of Iraq. And when I saw his work for the first time, I couldn't believe that anybody could produce something so powerful that in one painting you can read the history of a people, the history of a civilization, the cradle of civilization that had been so horribly transformed from a beautiful first world country with incredible arts and culture and brilliant thinkers and architecture and just history. And yet he was able to do that. And ever since then, he has been in my mind's eye. I feel like he's my Iraqi brother. We call one another brother and sister. I was able, with my husband George, to take two of his paintings out of Iraq, large, large paintings that we rolled up and smuggled out of the country so that it could be seen by people outside that troubled land. And they are my most proud possessions still. And they've only been seen outside of Iraq in the United States twice, once in Dallas and once in Ithaca, New York, when I co-sponsored a show with Palestinian artists as well. And so now I would like to introduce you to this great painter and extraordinary thinker, my brother Muayad Muhsin, in Baghdad, speaking to us, where it's midnight.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hi to everyone here. I have honor to meet you now, tonight. By the way of the introduction, I am Muayad Muhsin, Iraqi painter from Mesopotamia, from the land between two rivers. Was born in 1964 in Babylonian city near the historical city. No one has writing about me fairly. Maybe because I am far from groups and I do not care about the courtesies that some practice in the marketing, or perhaps because the groups are far from my pain, even though they have both more or less. It's noted that many of them who talked about me through writing or interviews, in fact, but me in directions that I did not take at all. Some of them give me my right in the effort that I spend at the very least in produce these curves paintings. Some of them tire to download my work by claiming that it's famous. I see myself living in reality, exclusively the Iraqi reality. It takes its course in me with the great pain and constant astonishment until all of these turns into a discourse that disturbs me a lot and consumes me. So I found myself writing about myself and presenting it to the public with the humility, since no one knows me about myself but myself, which was started with grief in the outcome of the speak and suffered greatly until this modest speech found doors for its spirit and reveal itself. I honestly say that reality fascinates me. I mean, our Eastern reality, despite the severity of its climate and disaster, but with all this, it makes me open my eyes to its breadth, to catch the plantful, short-termed in meaning, and make it according to what is known as postmodernism, or an attempt to routing identity through various metaphors that revolve around in reality. I am not surreally in the way and the Breton group. President it because they were depicting their nightmares and dreams. As for me, I am painting a reality that has turned into nightmares, present that you explain it calmly because it is stuck in the existence. I am much better than Salvador Dali because I used to painting in the shade, 48 to 50 degrees Celsius, with the consistent power on in the plaza in summer of Iraq, which called July of the Arabs from 15 July to 15 August. I was present in hours. I did not leave the country and never found a woman like Becky Ginheim, the gallery of the art of the century, to embrace my works and sell it. But I am the one who ought to find a market for that. I was very present in the shadow of the dictatorship that robbed my spring of life. Others prompted me to prove my existence in a discourse that is beside on the story that is characterized by the consistency of narration through the interactive forms of the present and past reality with the high performance and show technique with the color indicating slotting and belonging to the same reality and its events. I do not like to prolong it, but rather to shorten all meaning in a concept based on discourse. Painting should be an entity that has its own aesthetic and philosophical character, and it's not a requirement that it be completable with the aristocratic hall frontier of carts and furnishings. I am trying to launch a discourse to the world through a better reality. Some people may not be interested in that, but I am preparing a document for those who will come. The document has more eloquency than words. Sorry about my phonetic. Thank you to your
You're
hearing,
great.
your time.
Now we will be showing a very brief slideshow with some of Muayad's paintings that hardly show. It's just a tiny bit of his body of work, but please watch these with us. And so you see why this man should be in the Louvre and the Met and the great museums of the world. This is just a little taste of what he can do. His body of work, as I said, is enormous. And I hope to curate a show of his for you in the near future. We're talking about that. We just put the slideshow together today quickly.
I hope that.
It barely does him justice. But I think you can unmute yourselves if you like and give him the applause that he deserves.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Girls. Thank you very much. I hope meet us here in Baghdad in the future.
Thank you so much. And next, we have a wonderful band from the Finger Lakes region of New York and Costa Rica. They are not sure their bandwidth was good enough to perform live, so they were kind enough to provide us with a recording that they did just yesterday. This is Kath and Bo from the Katherine Aelias Band. Please welcome them.
Hello, we're Katherine and Bo Aelias from the Katherine Aelias Band. We're very happy to be participating in this event today. We feel that this organization has a mission that aligns with our own morals and ethics. We'd also like to tell everyone a happy solstice. Today we're going to perform a song that we wrote called Black and White. It deals with a lot of the issues that this organization is trying to address, or issues of the environment, social injustice, the bad political environment, etc. We really hope you enjoy it.
As the ocean waters rise, madly lapping at the shore, to a place where I have been so many times before, to a world that I have known, it's changing all the time, to a future left untold, the victim of a crime. As the mountains of garbage rise, slowly baking in the sun, it's a dreamscape that I saw, of writing when I was young, and all horizons fall under terror of a storm, and the tears of glaciers fall as the Arctic world turns warm. Watch it all turn to gray, colors melt until they go away. Watch it all turn to night, colors disappear without the light. As the dust of progress falls, leaving suffering in its wake, and those who have it all, they've only learned to take, and left out in the cold, the masses merely shake, and the top will tumble down as the foundation breaks. Watch it all turn to gray,
beautiful sound. Thank you so much. The Katherine and Aelias Band. Feel free to put those reactions up there. Next, we have a poet who also hails from the Finger Lakes region of New York State and Nebraska. She's really, her heart is in two places, in the plains and in the lakes. And she makes them both come alive in these two poems that she'll be sharing with us. She also had to provide it to us on a DVD, boy, I'm dating myself, on a pre-recorded MP4, which Steve is going to play for us now. This is Wrexie Bardaglio, poet.
The next poem I wrote for some young Lakota friends that I met when I shared a table with their mother at the South Dakota Public Utilities Commission re-permitting hearings for the Keystone Pipeline. And my background is in Native American affairs and legislation and US trust policy. So for some reason, I decided I wanted to be an intervener. And I think they wondered where this person in New York came from, but they accepted my application to be an intervener. So I went out there and I shared a table with my friend Elizabeth Lone Eagle from Cheyenne River. And her kids were kind of in and out and in and out. They were young then, they were 9, maybe 11 and 13. And she's been teaching them to be activists. And I got to know them a little bit, but I do want to make a quick comment about a funny thing that she said, Elizabeth Beth. So we were all sitting at tables with wired up for our computers and whatnot, little microphones. And our table, mine and Beth's, and our friend Cindy Myers from the Nebraska Sandhills, we were right behind TransCanada's main table with their attorneys. And TransCanada, now TC Energy. And so I gave my little thing, and was glad to get it over. And my friend Beth starts off and she says, looking squarely actually the whole time at all these attorneys who had turned around from TransCanada's table, and they were just staring right at us as if to intimidate us. It doesn't go over with Beth. So she says, "Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, members of the public. Good afternoon, Tribal Chairman. I bring you greetings from behind enemy lines." And everybody just broke out laughing. It was wonderful. And TransCanada, they even had to laugh. What they didn't realize is she's not kidding. So anyway, later that fall, Dallas Goldtooth, who was a delegate to the Paris climate talks in November in 2015, asked her for something to take to Paris. And so she made a video with her kids, and she asked me to write something for them. So I talked with them more, and she explained to me their Lakota names and how they were given and all that bit. So this one, I wrote it because I wanted it to sound like these were 9 and 11 and 13-year-olds talking. And so I didn't want a lot of big words and things that, like, I don't even know what, but I just wanted it to sound like young people talking. And it came out pretty well because Beth told me that there was an intonation or something, a movement in the way the poem unfolded, one verse for each child, that worked really well when she had them read it also in Lakota. So they read their verses that I wrote, and then they read their verses in Lakota. And I was very proud of them. And so in the video, they're on their horses and they're doing chores and they're taking care of the little people and helping with gardening or whatever. But these were some really inspiring young people to me, and I'm sure that they will be making a big difference. So this is called for Buff, Zora, and MJ, Paris, 2015. Across the homelands, we keep watch. We see the future coming. The buffalo have now returned. They graze the grasses long in spring, and winter wheat will come in time for harvest after solstice. I am Tatanka Itenkan. Water glints in morning sun, a shadow curves to surface light, folds back down a graceful dive, scales flash and disappear. I am Kante Skuyai Win. While arching high and over us thermal riders fly through clouds, we hear their cries, the darkening skies. The golden eagle watches. I am Anunka San Tokahea. Across the homelands we keep watch, though we may leave and then come back to care for Unchimaka. And so this is our vision now. Ancestors guided us to this. We ask you keep your promises. We pledge that we'll keep ours. We're all one heart, one voice, one plan, the one Creator gives us. So I made many wonderful friends, reconnected with many people from all the homelands in the Fort Laramie Treaty, in South Dakota, North Dakota, many people that I worked with from Nebraska. It was wonderful because it was decades later. And we were still all working on things together in this wonderful way. And one of my best friends is a fellow named Gary Dorr. Gary's Nez Perce from Idaho. But that summer that we were all out there, and many summers that I was out there working on things with them, he was there all the time because he was at that point living on the Rosebud. Gary is the best Indian lawyer I know, and he does not have a law degree. He has his degree from Haskell, but it's like the old-fashioned reading the law, and you cannot put one thing past Gary. It's just extraordinary, and he's just so wonderful. And I was, as you have in all these fights, you have your ups and downs, and you think, aha, we got him this time, and then you go, oh God, some circuit court did this, and Army Corps did that, and whatnot. And it's just been a fight out there on this Keystone Pipeline since, I don't know, more than a decade easily. So I would get discouraged, and Gary would just sort of, so what's the problem here? And I wrote this quick little piece, and it's called Running Ahead of the Avalanche for Gary. We can decide that there's nothing to be done. It is too late. My friend, though, sprints into a terrible and rich unknown. It is the end, and we know this, but he engages and survives. Meanwhile, I park my angst because there's nothing I can do. And now the smallest steps, the smallest size, the smallest promises are as big as the world we are about to lose. And so for him, I do not stop. Fini.
Thank you so much, Wrexie Bardaglio. Next, we have one of my favorite singers. I have a lot of favorite singers, but her voice just moves me so much. I first met Janet back in, I don't remember what year, when she was singing what became an anthem for the anti-fracking movement. And Janet Burgan is a multi-instrumentalist with a voice of an angel. Please welcome Janet, who's coming today to us live from Arizona, although she's a Marcellus Shale area warrior. Janet Burgan.
Come before you as I am, blinded by love. I can't find my way out. I need help from above. So help me, save me, show me a way, guide me, protect me, and I will seize the day. Surrendering my willfulness, I lift my hands to you. In this lonely wilderness, I cannot see the view. So help me, save me, show me the way, guide me, protect me, and I will seize the day. Out of this lonely place, I give them to you. Walking through this veil of fears, emerging in the sun. So help me, save me, show me the way, guide me, protect me, and I will seize the day. So help me, save me, show me the way, guide me, protect me, and I will seize the day. Thank you so much, Maura and Tim and Steve and everyone who's here. This is just incredible. It's that actually was I wrote that in New Orleans in 2016. I had just had that revelation in a bad love affair that you need to, bail, and I didn't want to have the courage to do that, so I sat in the backyard and just kind of asked the universe for some guidance, and of course she came through and I was able to do what I needed to do. But so interesting that when afterwards and after I recorded it and when I have sung it to other people, I'm so grateful that other people have been able to put their own kind of feeling about what it's about. So, people will tell me
what that song is about. And you know, it's always about all those things. But for in my personal moment of writing it, it was, you know, it was a very specific thing. I'm so grateful that art in any form goes out and touches people, and that people put their own selves into it. So so I hope that happened. I just need to do a quick retune here because I had to change the capo for just a second. So here's my tuning joke for the day. What did the snail say when he wrote on the turtle's back? Whee! And antlers? What antlers? So the next song is, I actually wrote it the day after I wrote Seize the Day. And sometimes when I'm writing, I just walk out in the backyard and look around. And that was one of those days. Yes, Sam, not so fast. Exactly. I never tell jokes from the stage that you cannot tell to kindergartners. Mostly because that's what I think is funny, but also because it's amazing how the most hardened union drunk at the end of the bar will laugh at a silly joke. There's a bird on a branch trying to hold on in the midst of a wind that's blowing strong. This bird fights to keep her footing as she's blown in all directions all at once, refusing to be thrown. Happily she rides that tree, unruffled and unharmed. She seems to know she's wild and free. Her life is truly charmed. I am that bird when it comes to you. I wrap my heart around your love and promise to be true. Throughout whatever comes along, the problems that will start, those trials and tribulations that will try to tear us apart. Happily I ride that tree, unruffled and unharmed. I seem to know I'm wild and free. My life is truly charmed. Happily I ride that tree, unruffled and unharmed. I seem to know I'm wild and free. My life is truly charmed. My life is truly charmed. My life is truly charmed. And it is. Thank you so much. Keep up the good fight.
Thank you, Janet. Your life is charmed and your voice is charming and you are charmed. Thank you for being here with us. Oh, voice. So next up, we have a visual artist and writer who also hails from the, originally from the Marcellus shale region, which we say, those of us who've been in the anti-fracking movement, it's a vast swath of pillageable lands. Iraq wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to destroy other countries, but now the fossil fuel marauders are after ours. But Asha, who fought the good fight in that region, is now living in New Mexico. And she also wasn't able to join us today, but she has given us a really fascinating insight into what she's doing now. Please welcome Asha Canalos.
Hi, my name is Asha Canalos, and I'm talking to you today from the ancestral lands of the Sandia Pueblo peoples in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So thanks so much for having me. It's really an honor to be here with so many amazing people. I just want to give a huge, huge shout out to all the incredible creatives out there doing amazing work to support the environmental movement all over the world. You all are incredible. So I'm just going to share some of my experiences and some of my work as an artist activist. I am working predominantly collaboratively with frontline communities who are impacted by fracking, by the oil and gas industry. And I started doing that work 10 years ago when I found myself in an impacted community in upstate New York, fighting a pipeline battle. And a lot of what I do could be considered portraiture. It's often combined with in-depth interviews, videos, publications. And what I'm doing is trying to share people's stories with a much broader audience. And as an artist, trying to use compelling visual imagery to draw people in and create access points for people to learn more about the issues, and also hopefully to get involved, to have some meaningful way that they are engaged in these issues. So I learned very quickly through doing this work that there is so much wisdom and beauty and vision that is embedded deeply within frontline communities. And in many ways, all we really need to do is to turn up the volume on all of that, on those experiences and those ideas, and to find ways to shed light on all of that so that more people can see it for what it is. And I've learned, just a tremendous amount from talking to all these amazing people. I'm hoping that these stories, their personal stories, will create a kind of an emotional attachment, connection for people, and hopefully help people to understand why this is so important. One of the things that we did encounter, I moved to New Mexico 5 years ago, and here in New Mexico, fracking is really disproportionately affecting indigenous communities, Navajo, Diné, and Pueblo communities. And I've had the honor and the privilege of working with some incredible indigenous leaders in that capacity. But one of our collaborative projects with a few different artists and a few different indigenous community members was censored from the New Mexico Museum of Art not that long ago for being too political, we found out later. So that was really a kind of an awakening that, in addition to this role of representing information so more people can connect to it, artists also have a role of protecting that art once it's out there, and those conversations that can happen because of that art. So, we wear a lot of hats, artists, and I just want to thank everyone for everything that they do. You can learn more about all of the issues I've talked about at the websites I've included. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you to Asha, who took the time to do that in between a crazy schedule. I think we all have crazy schedules and big burdens that we're carrying around with us right now. And taking the time to do something loving for each other and for ourselves, and to expose our art to a greater audience and to feel the community that we're trying to build here is just so great. And thanks to Asha for that. And now I'd like to welcome back Kimberlyn David, who opened us up with her essay. This time she'll be reading a poem that she's written called Our Digital Century. From the Netherlands again, Kimberlyn David.
So I'd like to offer a bit of context before I actually share the poem. It's a villanelle, and it was deeply inspired by an op-ed that I read last November by Siva Vaidyanathan, who wrote about Facebook. We're streaming live on Facebook, but he wrote about a secret meeting that Mark Zuckerberg had with Trump. And of course, he writes about the meeting, but he also talks about the larger picture, the ramifications of this huge platform having so much power in our lives. And so I'd like to share one paragraph because I lifted lines from his piece that are repeated in the poem. And the paragraph is, democracy is in retreat around the world. Ethnic and racial violence, often state-supported, is on the rise. The social fabric is fraying. Our ability to think clearly about our great problems recedes a bit farther every day. Facebook has played a part in all of that, yet the company's leader, who was until recently lauded as a role model for the young, stays out of the fray. So in this poem, you will hear the social fabric is fraying, or similar lines. Our ability to think clearly will also pop up. And the title, Our Digital Century, actually came to me a couple of days ago when Maura said, oh yeah, what's the title of this thing? And I was going through my notebook, and on the same page that I jotted down the initial draft of the poem, I included some phrases from a different op-ed from January of this year by Shoshana Zuboff in the New York Times. And her piece was titled, You Are Now Remotely Controlled. Maybe you're familiar with her book called Surveillance Capitalism. And I thought, yeah, there is no better title for this poem than that. So, Our Digital Century. See how the social fabric frays? Our ability to think clearly recedes and fractures. It ricochets. Those clickbait headlines screech like donkey brays. Attention spans diminished nearly. See how the social fabric frays? Data barons drill neural pathways, stalking any thought we cherish dearly. It recedes, fractures, ricochets. Philosophers express their dismays. Freedom is at risk, they say sincerely. Look at the social fabric. It frays. Let's reclaim our brains without delay, or we throw away more power yearly. It recedes, fractures, ricochets. Connection really matters these days. Maybe devices help when used austerely. See how the social fabric frays? It recedes, fractures, ricochets.
Ain't that the truth? Thank you, Kimberlyn.
Thank you, Kimberlyn, for that wonderful poem. I'm trying to reclaim my brain. And to help us with that process for all of us, our next singer, John Foran, has been one of the leaders of system change, not climate change, from its early days. I know him as a fine writer, a learned teacher, and a leader in building international connections among climate activists. But one thing that's new to me is John's identity as a musician. So I'm looking forward, along with you, to hearing John Foran.
Yeah, okay, so this is Katie Murray, our singer. I'm John Foran. The song is What's Going On, originally by the One Hit Wonders for Non-Blondes, and we messed around with the lyrics a little bit just for you. Maestro?
25 years and my life is still trying to get up that great big hill of hope for revolution. I realized quickly when I knew I should that the world was made of this sisterhood of us. You know, I cry sometimes when I'm lying in bed, get all of what's in my head, and I must admit the times are a little peculiar. So I wake in the morning and I step outside and I take a deep breath and I get real high and I scream at the top of my lungs, what's going on? And I said, intersectional ecosocialism. I say, hey, what's going on? And I said, intersectional ecosocialism. I say, hey, what's going And I tried, oh my God, did I try? Tried everything I knew for the institutions, and I dreamed, oh my God, do I dream? Dream every single day of a revolution. So I cry sometimes when I'm lying in bed, get all out what's in my head, and I must admit the times are a little peculiar. And I wake in the morning, I just step outside and I take a deep breath and I get real high and I scream at the top of my lungs, what's going on? And I said, ecosocialist revolution. I say, hey, what's going on? 25 years of my life is still trying to get up that great big hill of hope for a
Socialist
revolution.
revolution.
All right, John.
All right, Kate.
Well, thanks very much. That was Katie Murray and John Foran, which is a really nice version of an For Non-Blonde song, if I remember right. And they dropped the new words in the chat for us too. Next, we have something completely different by another multidimensional super artist, artivist, puppeteer, and organizer cum laude, who couldn't be with us today because she's doing some organizing from Brooklyn, New York. This is a shadow puppet show by the amazing Kim Fraczek. It's called Surviving the Storm, and she gave me some text to read about it, but I can't find it right now in my technological mess. But the best I can remember is that she watched a mourning dove protecting her nest throughout Hurricane Sandy. and it was precarious in a tree limb, and she watched it with worry and horror the whole time. And this is her rendition of that. This is Kim Fraczek with Surviving the Storm.
One of the lessons I've learned, and something that I use a lot now, is how to survive a storm. I nearly died up there, in one of the worst winter storms recorded. The trees taught me that the way to make it through those storms, and the storms of life, is to stay rooted and centered, but not rigid. The trees and branches that try too hard to stand strong and straight are the ones that break. The only ones that make it through are the ones that know to bend and flow and let go. So I've been using that now in my life. I use it when I'm being barraged by the media, by grassroots activists, by mainstream community, by everything. I just bend and flow. When I see the wind coming, I loosen up and get ready to get blown, and then I kind of flex back into place. And I'm ready to get up the next morning and do it all over again.
Was that something? Totally different. Leave it to Kim. She comes up with a lot of creative things. Next up, we have another musician, someone I've known for years and have watched perform at many a Porch Fest and protest. One of my favorites. Please welcome Will Fudeman from Ithaca, New York, who just coming back to us after doing a live gig. And he made it here in time. Thanks so much. Here's Will Fudeman.
I'm really happy to be here with all of you. It's quite an honor, really, to be with people from all over the place. This is a familiar melody that was written by the very prolific Traditional. And I'm just going to sing it. I will say something about it afterwards. When I've sung it before, people seem to like joining in on the chorus. Columbus sailed over the ocean. Great Britain sent Sir Francis Drake from Portugal, France, and from Holland. Each empire's a great big mistake. My country was born in resistance to empires extending too far. If lessons be learned from what happened before, there's a way to avoid endless war. Break up, let's break up the US of A, okay? Break up, let's break up the US of A. US has our troops in Korea. We've got even more in Japan, in Germany, Britain, and Turkey, Iraq and Afghanistan. No country should have a big army. No country needs troops overseas. Our country's too big for its britches. Let's break it up smaller soon, please. And break up, let's break up the US of A, okay? Break up, let's break up the US of A. The dumbest of people like big stuff, as if more piles of garbage are good. There's beauty in smaller dimensions. Think watersheds and neighborhoods. Bioregions place life on a scale. Self-governing really can work. It's high time we came to our senses. Don't pledge your allegiance to jerks. And break up, let's break up the US of A. Okay, break up, let's break up the US of A. All right, so I thought it was a funny idea, and the more I sing it, the more I think it's a really good idea. Not that I'm expecting it to happen in the next week, but it's a vision, and I like it. It's fitting with system change. So
You're here.
I'm going to do one more visionary song that's written by my friend Jerry Tenney from Oakland, California. It's a song that a band I'm in recorded with Abby Lyons and I doing sort of a duet on it and trading some verses. So let's see here. This one's called Behind the Clouds. Somewhere behind the clouds, there's a world like a jewel. No children cry for bread. Everyone lives by the golden rule. Like a vision, I can see it now. And the path is long but wide. Rainbow of colors on that road. Sisters and brothers, side by side. But there's a dark world where night is always falling. The forces of destruction bring us closer to the brink. Everybody's door is locked and the temperature is rising. I hope it's not later than we think. Hope it's not later than we think. The day is short and the work is great. about the rivers and the valleys and the mountains. Don't hide your head in the sand. Think about the fishes and the songbirds and the fishes in the ocean. Don't hide your head in the sand. Think about your neighbors and your families and your loved ones. Don't hide your head in the sand. Think about the children with their lives spread out before them. Don't hide your head in the sand. Think about the new day, which surely will be dawning. Don't hide your head in the sand. All right, thanks so much to Maura, Ted, Steve, everybody. Thank you all for being here. It's an honor, and peace.
Thank you, Will, for those spirited protest songs. I noticed somebody in the chat said, Liz Connor said, that's what we need to do, bring back the protest song revolution and stop hiding our heads in the sand. So you've already met our next artist, the poet Rafael Jesús González, who gave us our benediction. Around here in San Francisco Bay Area, we're very fortunate. Rafael has blessed us with his poetry at many, many events, giving voice to our hopes for social change and transformation. In 2017, the city of Berkeley named Rafael as its first poet laureate. And with that, I'm going to turn the mic over to Rafael to read another poem.
Muchas gracias, Ted. El poema que compartiré con ustedes es titulado La llamada. ¿Qué puedo decir para incitarte a defender la tierra? Recordarte cómo se siente el sol, el sabor de la sal, el olor del laurel, el chirrillo de grillo en noche de verano, el arco iris después de lluvia, lo que es amar. Imploraré a tu goce o a tu pavor. Puede ser terrible la tierra, en sus tormentas y en sus temblores, pero es la medida de cuál paraíso imaginemos jamás. Tú y yo moriremos demasiado pronto, pero que no siga la vida es más allá de aceptable. ¿Qué puedo decir para que ames la vida? Suficiente para que actúes y alces la voz en su defensa. Les diré que nací y me crié bilingüe, bicultural, en la frontera del Paso, Texas, y Ciudad Juárez, Chihuahua, la frontera de los Estados Unidos y de México. Así es que crecí descreyendo en fronteras. Y esta llamada es la llamada a la revolución que tenemos que hacer ahorita. Ese será nuestro arte, hacer esa revolución que se tiene que hacer inmediatamente, porque ya no tenemos tiempo. Y es la revolución ya no de armas, porque las armas están en manos de los canallas. Ahora la revolución es del corazón y de la mente. Tenemos que cambiar el sistema completamente. Tenemos que ponerle un fin a la edad del guerrero y traer la edad del sanador, la sanadora. Derribar el patriarcado y todo lo que nos ha traído a este punto. The poem that I will share with you is entitled The Call. What can I say to entice you to defend the earth? Remind you how the sun feels, the taste of salt, the smell of bay, a cricket's chirp on a summer's night, the rainbow after rain, what it is to love. Shall I appeal to your joy or to your fear? Earth can be terrible in her storms and in her quakes, but she is the measure of any paradise we will ever imagine. You and I will die too soon, but that life will not go on is beyond accepting. What can I say to make you love life enough to act and raise your voice in her defense? And this is the call to the revolution that we must make right now, because we have no time to waste. The time for the revolution is now, and that must be our art. It is a revolution that we must wage, not with guns, because the guns are all in the wrong hands. And we cannot wage a revolution using the same means of the oppressors. Our revolution must be of the mind and of the heart, and it must be universal. I was born and raised right on the El Paso, Texas, Ciudad Juárez, Chihuahua, Mexico, on the US-Mexican border. So I grew up disbelieving in borders. And we have to break down the borders. We have to bring down the system of the patriarchy and all that it has given birth to this point. It is our task now to bring an end to the age of the warrior and usher in the age of the healer. And that's what we have to do. We have to become healers and use our art for our healing and our transformation of a world view that has brought us to the point of extinction. And the choice is us, and we have to wage this revolution. And we have to wage it with a fierce love, because nothing else will bring an end to the nightmare that we have brought ourselves to, but love. And it's not the love celebrated by the Hallmark greeting card company full of little violets and little birds. It is a fierce love for life. It's a fierce love for the earth. Blessed be, and blessings to everyone who hears, listens. And let us be comrades, brothers and sisters in the struggle to make love the ruling concept of everything we do. Bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rafael, for those inspiring words and for your gift of words to us. It is truly a gift that enlightens us and arouses our sense of possibility. Many people will want to hear some of these things again or share them with others that weren't able to be here for this performance. And we'll be posting this entire event on our YouTube channel, which the link is in the chat for our various media, including the YouTube channel. And I think there's no better way to learn Spanish if you don't know Spanish than to listen to Rafael read one of his poems in both Spanish and English and start thinking about the interplay there. Our next performer is Ben Grosscup. Ben is a wonderful singer-songwriter and an organizer with the People's Music Network. Now, I first heard Ben's music on a song swap of the People's Music Network, which is a network of musicians, activists, songwriters, concert producers, sound engineers, and others who use music and culture in support of justice, peace, and social change. And we'll drop the link in the chat so you can learn more about the People's Music Network. Ben was hosting another event similar to this elsewhere today, and may be able to parachute in at the end of this, but he sent us a recording, which I'll now share with you. Steve?
Hello, my name is Ben Grosscup. I send you all revolutionary greetings from the People's Music Network for Songs of Freedom and Struggle. So glad to be a part of this Systems Change, Not Climate Change event. I want to sing a song for you that was inspired by a book by the journalist Chris Hedges. He wrote a book in 2012 called Days of Destruction, Days of Revolt. And in this book, he and his co-author, Joe Sacco, travel around the United States to different parts of our country that have been sacrificed to the logic of capitalism. It's sacrifice zones is the concept that he describes in this book. And it's the idea that the extractive logic of capitalism actually is geographically specific in the places that it extracts for profit to the point of exhaustion. And we see the devastating impacts of this logic all over. But when you look closely, you see it in a different way. So this song is called No More Sacrifice Zones. Here it goes. The army closed you in as they drove you from the plains. They're turning your homeland to a sacrifice zone. The company took the uranium, just the fallout remains. They're turning your homeland to a sacrifice zone where your story's been forgotten. We will make it known. Pine Ridge, you are not alone. Your homeland has been desecrated. The next could be our own. No more sacrifice zones. No more sacrifice zones. The state makes voting obsolete through emergency decrees. They're turning your city to a sacrifice zone. The cops occupy your street to bring you to your knees. They're turning your city to a sacrifice zone where your story's been forgotten. We will make it known. Ferguson, you are not alone. Your city has been subjugated. The next could be our own. No more sacrifice zones. No more sacrifice zones. The coal men blew the mountain, killing everything nearby. They're turning your region to a sacrifice zone. The state refuses to help your people as you watch them die. They're turning your region to a sacrifice zone where your story's been forgotten. We will make it known. Appalachia, you are not alone. Your region has been desolated. The next could be our own. No more sacrifice zones. No more sacrifice zones. The profiteers will cut you down if you're in their way. They're turning your country to a sacrifice zone. The bombs that kill your children came from the USA. They're turning your country to a sacrifice zone where your story's been forgotten. We will make it known. Yemen, you are not alone. Your country has been decimated. The next could be our own. No more sacrifice zones. No more sacrifice zones where your story's been forgotten. We will make it known. Pine Ridge, Ferguson, Appalachia, Yemen, Immokalee, Flint, Michigan, Northern Alberta, and Camden, Standing Rock, Navajo, Palestine, and Puerto Rico. We stand with you. You are not alone. Your lands and lives were sacrificed. The next will be our own. No more sacrifice zones. No more sacrifice zones. No more sacrifice zones. No more sacrifice zones. Thank you so much.
Wow, who wasn't singing along with that? It's great to have I wish we could be all singing together, but I think we were all singing on our own, along with Ben Grosscup. Next up, we have a poet whom I've known for quite a long time. We were in grad school together, and I first heard her at one of those things where the students, we were in a creative writing program, so the people were just all brilliant. And every time I met with them, I would be filled with creativity, just as I'm feeling tonight. Just hearing you all is so inspirational. And so Louise has just published a new book of poetry. And she's going to be reading 2 poems from it. The title is To Soothe a Teething God. And she calls her poetry socio-anthropological poetry. And I think she's the first, she might have coined that term, never heard of it before her. And so she's going to be sharing 2 of her really interesting pieces from her very unique perspective. Louise A. Hammonds.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Okay, thank you. Okay. I usually write poems based on themes of race, class, and gender. This particular collection is it has to do with race, class, and gender, but I also like to focus on religion sometimes. Um, I grew up in a Baptist household, and so I went to church every Sunday, and so I kind of weaved Christian figures and just made them, real world today issues. So the first poem is called Absence. All things do not begin with blood. Light on first day, sun on fourth, broke yoke of urethra across darkness, God come, free range. Underneath fig leaf, his intent soils, box hers, uterus. In the beginning was no word, utter us. I know these poems are short, but these are the ones that I thought, went along with the theme. So this next poem is called His Hysterectomy. In morning, sun sways above slab of steel, silver lining life for the taking. Autopsy asks, why solve for X? Some things go against nature. His hysterectomy, his hysteria. One time of month plus one moon lab coat equals bad chemistry. Jane sits up and stretches to see her name. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Louise A. Hammonds, who's coming to us from Utica to New York, and like many of us right now, is in the middle of a family crisis, and I hope it goes well. Next up, we have a visual artist coming to us from Virginia, whom I know also for quite a few years, but as far as I know, he's only been really making this kind of unique art for the last 6 years or so. But he's going to come to us live and actually give us a little more tactile experience. Please welcome Sam Husseini.
Some of what I've been thinking of as I've been listening to everybody else before I show my art, my day job as a writer, it brings me back to the quasi-global protests that happened in 2003 before the Iraq invasion. And that dovetailed with an art project that I did where I painted compass roses around the world, making the invisible visible of the reality of our one world, especially with the increasingly global threats of the pandemic and climate disaster and so on. So I thought I would put that out there. But the nature of my art that I have long had an interest in, but I kept pushing aside to do immediate political and media work with a number of groups. And every time I would go to a political conference somewhere, I would run away for or disappear for 2 hours or so and go to the local museum because I derived such strength from seeing visual art from wherever I was able to travel occasionally. So my art is very nature oriented. That is, I like to say a lot of traditional art is like a rowboat, stroke, stroke, stroke. And some modern art is like a motorboat. It's automated in some way. My art, I try to work with nature. It's like a sailboat. So this piece, for example, I hope you can see that okay, is the inside negative space of a hydrangea. That is, I took a hydrangea flower and I spray painted it let it dry, spray painted it with a different color, kept doing that until it was a solid mass, and then sliced it open with a food processor, a deli slicer that I ended up breaking in the process, as you might imagine. To see the wonder in the world, I picked this can. It happens to be called Natural Light. It's a beer, I suppose, in a parking lot. And I would just be struck by objects like that. And I layered it with layers and layers of paint and then sanded it down. So you kind of see the beauty in it that isn't perhaps readily available or readily apparent, but is there if you look for it. And this piece is actually called Resolver because I feel like our disconnect, our alienation, as Marx and Engels would call it, from nature, has a lot of negative ramifications, one of which is that we try to seek solace in addictive substances and habits. And so the irony of this piece is that even the refuse of such addictions, perhaps, is itself wondrous if we can realign ourselves with nature. Now, we didn't do this earlier, so I actually have 2 full paintings here, so I'm going to try to hold them up and hopefully they will come out okay. Why don't I talk, because I don't know if I can talk. The first one, well, I'll do them one at a time. This one is made with snow. And I layer snow as it's falling, and then it breaks up as it dries. And in some ways, it's better that we did it this way, but I do apologize for not doing a thing before, but it was fun to show both sides of that. That was called Outside In, because literally bringing...
You moved it away too fast.
Oh, okay, shall I show it again? Okay.
Back, please. Okay, just hold it still right there for a minute. Okay, thank you. Good.
What color he has in his sweater.
I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
And this next one is called Future Flag. I use a lot of flora in my pieces and occasionally fauna. And this one, well, you'll see.
Stop right there. Hold still. Wow. Great.
Now, perhaps you can't quite see it, but it's, you know, the negative space of where a bird used to be. And, you know, you just go with what nature gives you, and sometimes it's poetic. You know, she's the great master, and you just go with what she gives you. There are maggots here. I found a dead bird and I incorporated it into my art, but as I was painting it, the maggots started coming out. So it actually looks as though the bird is eating the maggots that were feeding off of it. And that speaks in a number of ways, I hope.
Right.
It sure does.
Thank you.
Thank you to Yuri for watching us.
Are you finished here, Sam?
Yeah, I get, you know.
Thank you so much. That was really fascinating. We had a few requests in the chat to ask you to explain the process again. I think that was after the snowflake one. If you could quickly do that one more, a little more in depth.
Sure. Well, there are actually two aspects to the snow. The piece that you saw was inside out, and as the snow is falling, I'm out there spray painting it as each, as a layer of, and then I'll spray paint another layer, and then another layer, and then another layer, and then you can get 6 inches, and it kind of looks like the Grand Canyon. And then it and then you eventually carry it inside, and it sort of breaks up in the process. And as it dries, you see all of these rivulets and so on. Let me actually show one last piece really quickly. Sometimes I actually preserve snowflakes, actual individual snowflakes. And this piece is rather involved. I'm not going to get into explaining it, but just to show, actual snowflakes occasionally are preserved in the process, especially if I'm not doing it on canvas, if I'm doing it on metal screens and so on. So,
wow, that's really fascinating, Sam. And I understand you have a show coming up in Baltimore soon. So anybody in that area, keep your eye out for it. And we dropped links to Sam's art site in the chat. So take a look there. I hope you'll all take a look at all of our artists' websites and other writings and artworks and films and everything else. Everybody's doing music. Next up, speaking of music, we have another singer-songwriter, a bilingual singer-songwriter from the Finger Lakes region of New York, professor and linguist as well. And she wasn't able to join us, but she quickly in her home studio, which is very intimate, provided us with 2 songs tonight. Colleen Kattau.
Hi everybody, this song is called Fast and Slow. Earth moves fast, but to us it's slow. Spinning round the sun till heaven knows. Science has an answer, proven by peers. Earth may well last 5 billion years. Around that time, the sun becomes a giant, but we'll be long gone unless we cool the climate now. You know it's coming on the land and sea, where it's either blazes or a tsunami. Fast and slow, slow and fast, water over the overpass. Too much for the planet to clean, earthly home under siege. Species disappearing at a fast rate, never to be known again. Is that our fate? Can we get to the balance? Make amends? For if animals vanish, we go with them, yeah. Can we hold the fire, turn back the tide, or just give over to the great demise? Fast and slow, slow and fast, is the bargain made, is the die cast? Too much for the planet to clean, the ancients told the prophecy. We got to be strong, stand defiant, just like David did when he slayed Goliath, yeah. Fast and slow, slow and fast, oh, our kind may not last. Slow and fast, fast and slow, flag half-mast for the deadly blow. Man and money doing us in, we'll be gone, but the world will spin on and 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 on. Hold back the fire, hold back the tide, stay the burning, stay alive, just like David did when he slayed Goliath, yeah. Oh, happy socialist solstice, everybody, and happy holidays. Thank you and peace.
Thank you to Colleen Kattau from New York State. Next, we'll be turning to another singer-songwriter from the other side of the country, coming to us from Oregon, Hanna Leigh, who's not only, she's another one of these Carpe Diem people who is a doula and an organic farmer. Hanna Leigh.
Hi, thank you for having me. So I want to give an intro to where this song came from. If any of you have heard of Clarissa Pinkola Estes, who wrote the book Women Who Run with the Wolves, and her story of La Loba, which is the wolf woman who goes out and gathers the bones that have been scattered throughout the land and travels and finds them and brings them back one by one and places them in a skeleton, goes, gathers and places them until she brings the last bone, which is the tailbone. She places it there. And the skeleton's full, and she starts to sing deeply over the bones. This deep song. And the flesh of the wolf comes back. And then the fur until the wolf is complete and then runs off into the wild. And I love this story about reclaiming our instinctual nature and bringing back the pieces of ourselves and singing ourselves to wholeness. And so this song is inspired by her. And I brought my friend Jess because this song is a circle song, and I've taught this in a group of 50 people, and it's really fun. You'll see, you can hear it as I sing it, how the different parts are really rich in group song. So La Loba, I like to think of this really deep feminine spirit, also this wise crone-like energy who knows everything, a deep part of us that knows beyond doubt, that just knows. Sings, she who knows all things. And then I'm going to speak the words out to the chorus, actually, or the verse before I sing it. We are reweaving, gathering the threads of soul, singing over bones, all fibers spun into the whole. We are reweaving, gathering the threads of soul, singing over bones, and coming into life again. She who knows all things. together now. Oh, wild people singing over the bones. We are reweaving, gathering the threads of soul, singing over bones. Oh, fibers spun into the whole. We are reweaving, gathering the threads of soul, singing over bones and coming into life again. Wild people of the earth, we together now. Oh, wild people singing over the bones. Wild people of the earth, we together now. Oh, wild people singing over the bones. We are reweaving, gathering the threads of soul, singing over bones. Fibers spun into the whole. We are reweaving, gathering the threads of soul, singing over bones and coming into life again.
Well, thank you so much for that. I didn't get the name of your fellow artist, so I wanted to share that in the chat. Maybe you could do that. Okay. Next up, we had, that was really just beautiful, very touching. I got a lot of nice comments in the chat, Hanna and Trend. Next up, we have Bay Area, well-known Oakland activist, artist, singer-songwriter, and multi-talented musician, and her husband, who's going to be singing along with him. You might recognize him, but this is Bonnie Lockhart with Ted.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. And we want you to sing along on this refrain of this song, which is Bye Bye Coal, for which we thank the Everly Brothers and our comrade in No Coal in Oakland, Bill Pinkham, who first adapted this chorus. I've rewritten the verses numerous times during the course of our more than 5-year saga of working with No Coal in Oakland. This plucky grassroots group, which is well populated by eco-socialists, I will say, was born when we learned that the developer, Phil Tagami, was going to build a coal terminal in Oakland destined to bring more than up to 10 million tons of coal into Oakland for export. These heavily polluting trains would go right through the historically black neighborhood of West Oakland, one of the worst asthma clusters in our state. And we said, no way. We popularized the resistance, and we persuaded the city council to pass an ordinance banning coal in Oakland. But the developer's zombie dream of a coal terminal just wouldn't seem to die. And you know how it goes. There are court cases and fancy lawyers and billionaire investors and Republican judges, met by the indefatigable resistance of the climate justice movement. So time is still on our side. Not one shovel has broken ground in this criminal project. And if you sing with us today, I'm pretty sure there will never be a coal terminal in Oakland. So please do sing along. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce our celebrity backup singer, Ted Franklin, straight from the coordinating committee of No Coal in Oakland. Bye-bye coal. Bye-bye filthiness. Hello healthiness. Bye-bye to coal. Goodbye. Bye-bye coal. Bye-bye filthiness. Hello healthiness. Bye-bye to coal. Goodbye. Bye-bye to coal. Goodbye. thought he won, but he's mistaken if he thinks we're done. We don't want asthma or COPD. I don't want West Oakland beneath a rising sea. So we say bye-bye coal, bye-bye filthiness, hello healthiness, bye-bye to coal, goodbye. Bye-bye coal, bye-bye filthiness, hello healthiness, bye-bye to coal, goodbye. Bye-bye to coal, goodbye. So Phil Tagami, your plan's a bust. We'll have good jobs here without coal dust. With people's power, we'll stay coal free. With climate justice and democracy. So we say bye-bye coal, bye-bye filthiness, hello healthiness, bye-bye to coal, goodbye. Bye-bye coal, bye-bye filthiness, hello healthiness, bye-bye to coal, goodbye. Bye-bye to coal, goodbye. Bye-bye to coal, goodbye.
No coal in Oakland.
Or anywhere else.
Or anywhere else.
Thank you, Bonnie and Ted. That was very rousing. We were all like dancing in our seats. It's so funny when you're doing one of these great sing-alongs and we're all just doing it in our little place. But one day soon we'll be back in the same place, we hope. Another great performer who's also a poet and a teacher and recording artist is joining us now, this time from the other side of the country. From Virginia, please welcome Synnika Lofton.
All right, hey. Peace and greetings, everybody. Thank you for having me. This is definitely a great opportunity. I've definitely been amazed by everybody that's performed, and I'm deeply inspired, I have two short poems, relatively short poems. I spent all night just, I was up all night just trying to think about what I wanted to present and everything. Most of my work is recorded, but I do have a lot of books out. So I wanted to pick something that was representative. A lot of my work explores race, class, culture, freedom, justice, police brutality, all the topical issues that affect us these days. So I want to read one poem from a book called Poems for the People. I thought it was definitely a good book to kind of jump into. This particular poem is simply called Walk Like a Liberator. Tilted crown, tattered wings, and a limp gifted by the Most High for the act of aiming to heal, love, and speak with sincerity. The winds smell like the passage of time. Above the lips, I strive for peace, but the terrain is maze-like and difficult. The predators swoop down from red sky and pollute the landscape. Resistance is an escape from society's blues. I walk tall with a big stick, memorize the lessons for the ones who made the journey yesterday. They prepared the way. I followed the path toward a different sun, a mighty moon, a God that knows my first name and values my complicated scars. Walk like a liberator. And the other poem is a poem that I recited at an event called Walk a Mile in Her Shoes. I was in Norfolk, Virginia several years ago. And it was an event to bring awareness to domestic violence. Actually, it's a men's movement, international men's movement that's dedicated to bringing awareness to domestic violence. And the whole thing, Walk a Mile in Her Shoes, you literally have to, at the end of the event, you literally have to put on high heel shoes, all right, and actually, walk around. You have to walk around downtown Norfolk for an actual mile, which is probably the most difficult thing I've ever had to do. But it was a great event, and it pulled together a lot of great people, a lot of great voices. So this is simply entitled Walk a Mile in Her Shoes. There's nothing wrong with shaking the earth for a little freedom. Nothing wrong with saying she matters and they matter, and that history should be overpowered, and that democracy should be ruled by the people, and that gender roles should be re-examined or destroyed. There's nothing wrong with climbing for a safer ideology, a safer creed, a paradise for people driven by liberation. There's nothing wrong with advocating for the broken, beaten, and weary. Nothing wrong with putting on high heels and kicking up some dust, kicking up some political unrest, putting miles between the paradigm shifters and the rest. Challenges and tests are lion's dens that lead to advancements. From Harlem to India, from Iowa to Mogadishu, justice is the language on our tongues. There's nothing wrong with saying peace with clenched fists, with strong backbones, with intelligent resolutions, with voices as tall as mountains in Central Asia. There's nothing wrong with our deeds resembling healed scars or good works after a long day. Poem entitled Walk a Mile in Her Shoes. All right, thanks everybody, I appreciate it.
Wow, that was so powerful. I never heard of that movement, and it's about freaking time. We got to get more men doing that. Thank you so much, Synnika. That was really thoughtful. Did you go to Goddard College?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Goddard College, where all the best poets come from. No, well, many of the best poets. Thank you so much. That was really powerful and much appreciated. Next up, we have another singer-songwriter who is so many other things that I don't think I could begin to list them. He's a blogger and he hosts podcasts and he hosts I don't know, he writes for Counterpunch and other wonderful progressive media outlets. He wasn't able to join us in person either, but he did this specifically for us today. And this is David Rovics coming to us from Portland, Oregon, USA.
Play another game of Scrabble, put the kids to bed, marvel with them at the way the sky is turning red. Keep close tabs on the news where the fires have arrived, bags packed and ready if we need to run for our lives. See the world darken in the middle of the day, hear the stories of the people whose towns were burned away. Tens of thousands driving, obeying the mandate to move faster than the fire and evacuate. To a parking lot in Clackamas, camping in the smoke, wondering what remains unburnt, unbroke. If things had been unpredictable, they just got even more. As fire burns the world from the mountains to the shore, will this place exist tomorrow? It's just a mystery as we're living through the flames of history. Play another game of Scrabble. Rallies have to wait. Even the most dedicated aren't out to demonstrate. Maybe packing their belongings or helping others do the same, almost missing all the tear gas before the fires came. They call this the city of bridges, but if we get the cue to evacuate due north, there are only two. Will this place exist tomorrow? It's just a mystery as we're living through the flames of history. Play another game of Scrabble. Follow every tweet of anyone who might be vaguely related to the beat. Say sorry to the kids for always looking at my phone. This alerts app doesn't work, no message and no tone. If you don't have a way to fly, there's nowhere much to go. Just look out at the horizon, hope not to see it glow. Will this place exist tomorrow? It's just a mystery as we're living through the flames of history. Play another game of Scrabble, put the kids to bed.
Wow. Those of you on the West Coast, that probably hits home even more. Thank you so much to David Rovics for that. We're going now to our final performer, because Nicole Spain, our humorist, unfortunately had to leave because of a family emergency. But now we're going to hear from another East Coast, Virginia-based singer-songwriter whom I've known for many years too, is a great activist and singer-songwriter and actor. She wasn't able to be with us, but she did give us these two beautiful pre-recorded songs. Lisa Ann Wright.
Hi, my name is Lisa Ann Wright, and this song is about people who struggle, both on the left and the right. It's called My Daily Bread. How many seconds, how many minutes, how many hours, how many days? Next week my rent is due, gotta make it through on minimum wage. We watch your kids, we wash your car, we blow the leaves out of your yard. We paint your walls, we build your house, and they want to build a wall to keep us out. Baby's milk and mama's pills, working 2 jobs to pay my bills, just can't seem to get ahead, chasing down my daily bread. Well, I help you and you help me. That's how the golden rule should be. Babysitter's sick, gonna lose a day. That left front tire'll have to wait. We milk your cows, we pick your fruit, we press your pretty business suit. They say we're blessed, but we feel meek when one bad tooth costs us a week. Baby's milk and mama's pills, working 2 jobs to pay my bills, just can't seem to get ahead, chasing down my daily bread. How many seconds, how many minutes, how many hours, how many days? Next week my rent is due, gotta make it through on minimum wage. Next week my rent is due, gotta make it through on minimum wage. Next week my rent is due. Everybody's got a right to live. A killer came to town, came right up to our door. It came for the old and sick, and it came for the poor. Well, the rich, they can't avoid it, and they stand a better chance. They see their brothers die, then blame them for their circumstance. But everybody's got a right to live. Everybody's got a right to live. And before this campaign fades, we'll all go down in jail. Everybody's got a right to live. The worker in the factory is packaging our meat. Essential so-called aliens are picking the fruit we eat. The healthcare aide has a fever of 104. But her boss says if she stays at home, she can't work there no more. Everybody's got a right to live. Everybody's got a right to live. And before this campaign fails, we'll all go down in jail. Everybody's got a right to live. The people who are dying all alone. The loved ones cry and say goodbye as a nurse holds up a phone. Our nation's leaders also cry that we're emptying their purse. It's a killjoy to go golfing when you're stuck behind a hearse. But everybody's got a right to live. Everybody's got a right to live. And before this campaign fades, we'll all go down in jail. 'Cause everybody's got a right to live.
Very beautiful. A beautiful note to end our day's performances. And I want to thank you all for coming today. I hope you found beauty and inspiration in today's performances. Let's raise our hands in appreciation of all the artists who shared their work today. The Katherine Aelias Band, Wrexie Bardaglio, Janet Burgan, Asha Canalos, Kimberlyn David, John Foran, Kim Fraczek, Will Fudeman, Rafael Jesús González, Ben Grosscup, Louise Hammonds, Sam Husseini, Colleen Kattau, Hanna Leigh, Bonnie Lockhart, Synnika Lofton, Muayad Muhsin, David Rovics, and Lisa Ann Wright. May the next year show us new possibilities for struggle and convergence. And I look forward to seeing you all at the Ecosocialist Equinox in March. And let's thank Maura Stevens for all her work producing this event, and Steve Willett for doing the Zoom hosting and live streaming. Visit our website and YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks again.